And I think, like for you, initially you really set your mind with this like investment banking and, eventually with Harvard MBA, and then you decided to join a startup. And then eventually, like with Blue Apron. And I suppose most people in this room probably know about Blue Aprons, but maybe just very quickly, well, I guess I wish that exists now in Taiwan, given that I have been cooking at home for like
you guys
a month
all locked
now.
up. Yeah.
And I'm running out of ideas. And I think, if Blue Apron were to exist here, I would be able to have a lot more fun, I guess, cooking these days. Obviously, that's not here yet. Maybe, I don't know whether they have plan to be here. But, just kind of like, I'm curious at the time, what made you make that decision in terms of, because, for a lot of Asian kids, they want the brand name, they want the big shining kind of like logo or title. What did you decide? Why did you decide to join Blue, especially when you were so small? You were the first product hire back then.
So my first job out of college was in investment banking. My second job was in venture. So I was very lucky to work at a corporate venture team. Time Warner at the time. Time Warner doesn't exist anymore. What happens? They sold to AOL, became Warner Media. Discovery just does by Warner Media. So sadly, but Time Warner was a $30 billion media giant. They own TNT, TBS, CNN, Warner Brothers, blah, blah, blah. So Time Warner at the time had a corporate venture arm, $25 million outlay a year, Series A, Series B style digital media investments. A very professional team. So it's completely separate from the M&A team. So I was basically there. 3 partner level folks and 2 associates. I was one of the 2 associates for about 2 years. And that kind of got me a taste of early stage, like both from the investor perspective, as well as like the entrepreneurial environment. And this is in New York at the time. So this is about a decade ago. And New York, the early stage ecosystem was less developed, although there was already booming. So that was very interesting, kind of understanding kind of the risk spectrum and how the culture of entrepreneurship. So I pretty much enjoyed that. And then I went to business school. Without going into kind of too much detail, basically 2 weeks after I got there, I started working on my own startup. And how that happened was I was on the investor side. So I was just sitting at the other side of the table evaluating ideas all day. And then I got to school. This is back then, Eric Ries, and that crew just started this concept of lean startup. So minimum viable product. This was the concept that was just getting popular at the time. So you're thinking of like customer development, V1, MVP, putting stuff out there. And I had this idea, and I, as a business person, you like analyze it. You're like market size, this and that. You talk to a lot of people, talk to your classmates. And at some point you're like, okay, I have to build it and see people pay for it, because otherwise you never know. So that I was like, okay, well, I'm a student now. I don't have to quit my job, even though it is really busy being a full-time MBA student at Harvard. They actually are kind of they take themselves pretty seriously. So you can just skip class all day. And so that's what I was like, okay, I can use the spare time to try this venture. So I went down the rabbit hole, basically became a founder and went through the founder journey, probably like a very, very early stage. So I had like that level of exposure. Long story short, that company didn't work out. And coming out of school, I was pretty set on, okay, I want to become a product manager, because when I was a founder, I didn't know how to build software. I didn't have a computer science degree. I didn't know what it meant to like shape a digital experience. And I feel like if I have a career in technology, whether it's on the investing side or on the operating side, this concept and the capacity to really shape how software interacts is really important skill. So then I decided that, okay, I only want to work at a startup. How this came to my realization, at HBS, many, many companies come recruit, including companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and then your McKinsey, Bank, BCG, and other larger companies. So I never done campus recruiting. I never interviewed on campus. There's one information session from Amazon. So they do these information sessions. Like they get a classroom and they fill people up and like, oh, here's what Amazon does. And there's just stuff that people we hire. I went in, I could not stand for 30 minutes. I just got out. I was like, this is so boring. I cannot do this big company thing. I need to work at a startup. So that's basically kind of how I never interviewed with anyone. I don't even know how campus recruiting actually works. And so that 30-minute session just was like, I can't deal with this. So the way I think about risk is, which by the way, is not how most of my business school classmates think about risk. HBS is very expensive. It's like 150 grand a year, US dollars, something like that. Not including travel and lodging. So I don't even know how much I spent. I was fortunate enough to have worked at investment banking to be able to pay for it without student debt, which is very fortunate. I understand not everybody's financial situation is the same. And the way I think about it is, okay, the reason I spend so much money is so that I can buy an insurance policy against my career. So if I really needed a job, I will be able to get a job that pays. If I really like need to pay rent and whatever, so I should take as much risk as I want, because otherwise, why am I paying for this? I shouldn't really pay for this. I should just not do that. And so that gave that framework. The other way I think about it in terms of how much money I make in my late 20s, early 30s is that I basically, by going to business school, my cash account, other than the retirement savings, got wiped out. And I was like, it's okay. I'm late 20 something. 钱可以再赚, like think money, you can make money later. And so like, I just feel like that was kind of my framework, and I got really comfortable with it. And then, so my first job out of business school actually was at another startup called Fab as a product manager. So that was my first product job. That gave me a break to then got hired by Blue Apron. And quickly answer your question on Blue Apron was a 20-person company, 18 months old, younger than Fab. Fab had raised like $300 million by the time I joined, and then went bust. This is a whole separate story. But Blue Apron, I had conviction as a customer. I had been a customer actually. And then I was analyzing like a venture investor. I was like, your margin must suck. I've done an e-commerce business. Fulfillment is so complicated. And then I went in to talk to the team, and I was like, oh, you guys actually have your stuff together. And this is actually very interesting. This company was growing, for context, 18 months old, had product market fit right out of the gate. We're doing 15. So at the time, I interviewed in December, 2 days before Christmas in 2013. They're like, oh, this month we're going to do $30 million run rate, US dollar run rate. In January, we're going to do $40 million run rate. In February, we're going to do $50 million run rate. By end of 2014 calendar year, we're going to do $100 million run rate. I was like, yeah, whatever. This guy, CEO, he was a venture capitalist as well. That's how we met. And that's how he found me. And I was like, yeah, whatever. You're just bluffing. And I got there. And actually, that's actually what happened. This company grew 3x in like 12 months. It's insane. And it barely had marketing budget. They just start doing marketing. This is a consumer business. And I was there for 3.5 years. And by the time I left, we went public. And what happened with the business is that they're one of the early entries in this industry called meal kit. So they're dominating for the first 5 years. And I was fortunate to be part of that growth phase with my tenure. And when I left, they got to close to $1 billion run rate. The business has since contracted because there's a lot of competition. And this, kind of talks about barriers of entry and stuff like that. And there's also execution mistakes of the business, but nonetheless, the business probably grew 25x during my tenure there. I mean, obviously not my own doing, but there was a very, very, very interesting learning experience, be able to see that and help build teams during that phase.